My name is Haddy J Coulibaly. I was born in Pomona, California, United States, and I was raised in Gambia, West Africa. I call Gambia home. I was there for 13 years before I moved back to the US in 1999, straight to Atlanta, and I've been a resident of Atlanta since. As a profession here in Atlanta, I work for a financial services company called Now Account as the Vice President of Credit. And as a community leader, I am the chairwoman of the Atlanta Gambia Emergency Relief Association, AGERA.
Hello, my name is Maïmouna. Most people know me as Maya here. I moved to the United States in 2008, and since then I've been working here as a marketing manager in corporate America, and I'm also a real estate agent and investor. So when I moved here from France, and before that I was born and raised in Senegal.
My name is Susan Jammeh. I was born and raised in the Gambia. I came to the US right out of high school, came here to attend college, and I have been living here ever since. I am the current president of the Gambia Christian organization that is based here in Atlanta.
My name is Mariama Saho. Lots of people know me as Yam. I was born in the Gambia, but raised here in Atlanta, Georgia.
My name is Haddy Cham. I'm a realtor. I live in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Hello, my name is Amie Colleh Mendy Thompson. I am a Gambian living in America.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Jagne. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia to immigrant parents, actually. My parents immigrated from the Gambia in West Africa, and they essentially built a family in Atlanta.
Hello, my name is Bintou Cham. I am from the Gambia in West Africa. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hello, I'm Victoria Jones, and I was born in the Gambia and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I attended Georgia State, where I received my BS in biology, and I currently work at Quest Diagnostics as a forensic scientist.
My name is Fatu Jagne. My family and friends call me Fatu. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, raised in Gambia, West Africa. I have lived in Atlanta just about my whole life. This is my city. Georgia is my state. I love Atlanta forever. I love Atlanta.
Am I okay? Well, absolutely not. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I'm not gonna give the cookie cutter answer that I always give everybody, that I am okay. I'm one of those that always thinks about herself as one of those strong Black women, and we are all guilty of that. We think that we are strong people and that we can just, keep on going, compartmentalize our lives, just like disassociate like the professional work from our personal lives and our emotion. And I think the recent events just blew it all out of the water. Like it doesn't exist anymore. We do not have those compartments anymore. I'm not able to compartmentalize my emotions anymore. What you see is what you get. I think that as an individual, I always came to my relationships, whether professional or personal, that way. I thought I approached it that way. I thought what you saw was what you get, but it wasn't, because I self-edited myself. As a Black person in America, you get those moments of microaggressions and those moments of like just full frontal aggression, where people may be like openly racist and tell you something to your face. But then you get a lot of those microaggressions, and they're just like almost like blips in your life. Like it happens, you deal with it, you move on. Then you go on 2-3 hours, something else happens, you deal with it, and then you move on. But I think the recent events, that tape with George Floyd, it just didn't allow for it to be like just moments. It just continues. It doesn't end. Like, I think I am grieving. A lot of Black people have been grieving for 450 years. And this time the grief just doesn't seem to be going away. And I think we cannot escape it. The conditions are so just ripe for everybody to have to face what's happening in this country, what's been happening. And nobody can escape it. And I think that made it a lot harder this time.
People ask me how I feel, how am I doing, And it's just easy for me to say, I'm okay, I'm all right. But if I'm being completely honest, I'm not okay. That's just how I feel, not okay. I'm an empathetic person. When people hurt, I hurt. When people are sad, I'm sad. I just feel I feel the emotions of what's around me and the people that are around me. So it's a lot on anyone emotionally. So bottom line is that I'm not okay just seeing everything that's going on, the current state of America, the current state of the world, everyone standing, or a lot of the world standing behind us and protesting with us. You want to feel good, but you can't because you know the reason why it's happening. We should not be here. We should not be here. It's really hard to kind of try to go through my day-to-day like everything is okay or put a smile on at work to not upset or make my white counterparts uncomfortable. But they don't live with the type of anxiety that we live with. They're not as uncomfortable as we are every day, just going through our everyday tasks. Like things as simple as going through the store, driving in a predominantly white neighborhood and having police follow you. That sense of anxiety, they don't have to go through that every day. So in a nutshell, I'm not okay.
Am I okay? I honestly don't know if I'm okay or not. I'm not, actually. I would say that. It's been very tough, very overwhelming. And my perspective of how it should be viewed with all that's been happening, the unrest, the discomfort, and all the conversation, the hard conversations, may be very different from one that has been born and raised in the United States. I have two parts. I may have been born here, but I wasn't raised here. So my perspective of the experience is completely different. I think it'll be more painful for someone that spent their whole life in the United States versus mine. My first experience of such racism, prejudice, was not necessarily someone being racist towards me. It was more someone being undermining, condescending about where I was from. Not knowing I was born here, but because I was African. Part of it was very foreign to me when it initially happened back in '99. It was more towards my intelligence and what I looked like. So it didn't bother me as such until years later when I actually went to Puerto Rico with friends and we were discriminated against, not by a Caucasian, but a Hispanic man that thought they were Caucasian. So it's a bit different for me, but then all of that was just building up to what I would later experience more and more of. It's just disheartening that we're 150 years after Juneteenth, which happened to be the day we're doing this interview, that we're trying to promote progress when that was progress. And now we're talking about progress and seeing it that way. And I hate to use the word hate, but I hate that we are there today. And that doesn't make me okay. Am I okay with everything that happened with people voicing how they react? I don't think there's a perfect way to protest. And I'm not the one to tell them how to. We've had people that sat in front of their porch and it was the wrong thing to do. We had people that stood in front of their house, it was the wrong thing to do. You slap somebody, it's the wrong thing to do. How do you express yourself? I'm not the one to tell them how to do that. Am I okay with how it happened? Probably not 100%, but I'm okay with them expressing how they really feel. And I think it's time that all of that is put forth. Everyone has the right to express how they feel, and it has to continue. The conversation has to continue, and that part I'm okay with. Internally, am I okay? No, because I'm scared too. I have a son who's only 3, and this is not the world for him.
Am I okay? Am I okay? Is anybody okay? I don't think so. For me, personally, I feel very frustrated. I am exhausted. I am emotionally drained. I am mentally exhausted. And above it all, I am very, very fearful. I am fearful because I have 2 kids that were born and raised here in the United States. My son is 15 years old. And when I look at him, I see this very innocent boy. I see this boy with very strong ambitions. And I see this boy with a good head on his shoulder. And I know he will do great when he goes out there into the world. But my fear is the world ready to accept him for who he is as a person?
The truth is, I'm tired. I'm tired of the injustice against Black people, not only in America, but globally. I'm tired of the discrimination and the systemic racism that we face in the US. I am shocked and hurt that people in this 2020 will still see someone by their skin tone and discriminate against them and decide to take away their lives and see them as less than or invaluable. It's hurtful to me because I know that that could happen to anybody. It could happen to me. What happened, the recent events that happened with Breonna Taylor, she was unjustifiably killed in her home. And it was the wrong house. The police went into the wrong house. So imagine not being served justice for a life that you took away mistakenly. It's just not right to me. It doesn't sit right in my spirit. It doesn't sit right in my soul. The events that happened with George Floyd that went viral internationally, that led to this uproar of protests and Black voices being heard globally. Literally, the whole world was protesting with, the Black Americans. And it made me feel like, why did it have to get to this point? I just don't understand how someone could stand and record someone being murdered for over 8 minutes. I haven't even watched the video because it's just heart-wrenching. So I just never understood that. And then the fact that there were other cops involved, there are other people involved, there are witnesses. People saw the injustice that we were facing. People saw the injustice that was going on. He constantly said that he couldn't breathe. He constantly said that to get up off his neck, that he was hurting. And still you dismiss that and continue to kneel down on his neck. I just never understood how that is acceptable as someone, a police officer, who the people are supposed to look up to and hope that you will protect us. Instead, you are killing us, which makes it seem as if you see our lives, specifically Black lives, as invaluable. So I'm tired. I'm tired of the injustice. I'm tired of the inequality. It's overwhelming and it's exhausting.
African Americans have dealt with several unjust situations, and my current feeling towards it's numb, anger. Every day I'm stepping out. My family members are always worried whether I'll be able to make it back, whether I'll be able to inform them of things that are going on out there. And with that concern of not knowing if your child will be coming back home to simply have dinner with you, eat breakfast with you, that's the type of things we are facing right now. For example, a brother from the Gambia was killed by cops with a simple traffic stop. So imagine just going to the store, trying to get something to eat, and not knowing that's your last day that you will ever experience with anybody you love.
Am I okay? Well, I'm grateful to be alive, I'm living, but with everything, I am not okay. I'm scared, I'm gutted, I'm tired. I mean, it's just a whole lot of emotions. Everything that's been going on, I mean, it's been so hard, especially being a mother to 2 boys. I get scared for them, and sometimes I tell myself, like, well, they're little, maybe I shouldn't start worrying so much about them. But if it doesn't change now, when will it change? And we've seen that little boy playing in the park with his toy gun, and where is he now? So then you say, oh, they're little, but then on the other hand, chances are it could happen, So And like I've said before, seeing the video, especially of George Floyd, and no human being should be able to do that to a fellow human being, especially a police officer who's supposed to protect and serve. And he just had no regard for human life. I mean, people are screaming, saying he can't breathe and all this stuff. And you just put your hand in your pocket and just, you know, pretty much suck the life out of him. And to me, he just didn't have no remorse and didn't care. So it's been scary. If someone can do that, and then I keep seeing video after video after video, after a while, I mean, and the feeling of helplessness that I feel is what's worse for me, because it's like, oh my God, I feel like I can't do anything, which is very scary. And my oldest son, who's only 9, is like, Mommy, you know, let's move back to Africa. The police, you know, they don't do that there, because pretty much every year we go back home. And so he knows, you know, the environment over there. But like they say, everywhere you go, there's gonna be pros and cons. But the fact that you won't have to fight for your life, to me, you know, that's a huge one. So
I believe the inhumanity and the injustice towards the Black person it's awful. It's unacceptable. It needs to stop, because we all one. The color of our skin doesn't define who we are. The color of our skin doesn't define whether you're supposed to live to see tomorrow or die today in the hands of police. Police brutality needs to stop. Racism is unacceptable. Racism has no place in our society. Racism has no place in our heart. It's too heavy to carry. All we need to do is continue. We cannot stop. We have to continue. We have to fight the fight. And this is for our children tomorrow. We have to fight the fight for our brothers. There are more Black men incarcerated in jail than white people, than any other race, period. For what? It's sad, but we have to keep the fight going. We have to keep fighting, we have to keep praying, we have to love more, and don't allow hate in our hearts.
How I feel about what's going in this country, about the social injustice and police brutality against the Black people. Sometimes it makes me really angry when I think about it, how they treat the Black people, especially the young Black men and women that died over the years. It is so heartbreaking that people would treat people like animals, especially how George Floyd died, for example. I get so angry when I think about it, for all the parents that lose their kids and the other Black men that got killed by police through this system of injustice and systemic racism in America. It's so unfair.
Am I okay? How can one be okay? I am not okay, and I have not been okay for quite some time now. For the most part, I'm just in disbelief in watching the unmasking of how Black people are being mistreated in America. And I have done a lot of pondering, trying to understand the why. Why does these things keep happening? I am very disturbed by the lack of answers to the why these things keep happening. Discrimination, injustice, hatred, racism. Why do people harbor these feelings? Black people suffer a lot of different types of racism in America. But as a Gambian, I would like to go a little deeper because we suffer many of the same mistreatments in the Gambia. Right now in the Gambia, we have all kinds of stupidity going on. We have tribalism, we have classism, we have religious injustice, because the dominant religion minimizes all other religions. We have the LGBTQ community being told they don't have any rights. And we have poor people in the villages have their lands being taken away by greedy developers, and there's nothing they can do about it because they are poor and voiceless. We living in America, we are faced with all levels of corruption when we try to reestablish ourselves back into the Gambia. Personally, I think the world as a whole is a mess. The world is a mess right now. I think it will be very hypocritical to just be upset about what's happening in America and turn a blind eye to what's happening back home in the Gambia. Because I think the worst kind of discrimination is the one dished out to you by your own people. I don't like to see any injustice of any kind, period.
For the longest time I had to, because it was always, okay, I'm the minority here. Do I need to make sure that I adapt to the culture that is dominating in this country and just come across as somebody who's not threatening, somebody who is not a beast, which is literally what a lot of people think, somebody who's not weird or interesting, as one of my colleagues called the African American culture before. And so I had to really think about it now. Thinking about it now, I did have to self-edit myself. Like, I spent a lot of time editing myself and just figuring out how to fit. And I don't have the energy anymore to do that. I just don't. Having lived in 3 continents, I do know how beautiful it is to see differences. I do know that it makes people richer. I do know that it makes people more forgiving. And I also do know that it humbles you. And I think in America, the hard part about making people understand how ridiculous the current situation is comes from the lack of just open-mindedness to other cultures. Sometimes it's just shocking to me. I do love a lot of things about the culture I am from, but I do love a lot of things about the American culture. But one thing to hate about the American culture is the deep racism and the systematic racism that exists here. And once you go through that phase of rude awakening as an immigrant, as a Black immigrant, you realize, wow, I do have to do more. I am tired. My kids may be shot in the streets just for being Black. And it's heartbreaking, pretty much. It is heartbreaking.
How I feel about police brutality and social injustice in the U.S. Well, this is not new. Police brutality and social injustice, I think that stemmed and started when the first group of slavery arrived in the U.S. Fast forward to 2020. We all go on with our everyday lives. We live in our bubbles, and we are untarnished by the ongoing wrongdoings in our society because we are busy. Now, this all changed March 14, 2020. The rupture of COVID-19 came down upon us. We were not ready for it. We were all in a state of confusion. There was a lot of questions that were not answered. We were all in a state of unclarity. We didn't know what to do. We were all asked to stay at home, and only essential workers were allowed to leave their house. We all stayed at home, glued to the TV. And we all, the whole entire world, saw a black man who was compliant and did everything that he was told to do, took his last breath as he asked, or as he called out to his mother.
The biggest change that needs to come now and moving forward is accountability. Just holding people, like the police officers and the people that we put our trust into, accountable when they make grave errors, when they kill us. You know, they should not be killing us, but if it happens, they need to be held accountable for it. Breonna Taylor was a 27-year-old woman that was killed in her own home. The police officers that killed her are still out free. So this is what I say when we say we need accountability. Yeah, the cops that killed George Floyd are now arrested, but it took so much. It took a global outcry to get 4 officers convicted. So just imagine the instances that are not filmed and all of those police officers that go home to their families every day as if nothing happened, as if they didn't take a life, take someone's sister or daughter or brother. Accountability, that's the first thing. And if we can't 100% rely on our legislature or the people that are in charge. If we see that it's failed us before, sometimes we need to be the change that we want to see. And if that means, you know, just bringing more awareness to people, or just trying to, I guess, infiltrate and be in those positions where we can make the decisions, then maybe that's what needs to happen. That actually is what needs to happen. It's not even a maybe. We need to be heard. We need to be more diverse in all types of branches of government, from the local level up all the way up to the federal level.
On social media, I've seen different types of morals coming up, placing Black Lives Matter images everywhere and renaming streets of the individuals that have lost their lives, but yet that does not make change. We need our lawmakers to change laws and implement them. For instance, Governor Cuomo already passed some laws in New York where certain chokeholds are not allowed to be done. And that's a great start. So once one state starts, another state can follow behind. So that's all we ask. If people start passing laws and putting the ideas there, the bills out there, then people understanding what these bills consist of will be able to take a step forward. Until then, nothing can be resolved, because changing a name on a street sign doesn't fix anything at all.
To start with, I would actually like to see police officers retrained, you know, so that, to me, they just have this fear of Black people. When they see a Black man, all of a sudden they claim to be scared for their life. You know, you could have a brush, you know, a toy gun, whatever. They just have to retrain them and just get that out of their system, that not every race, there are bad people, you know. So just because you see a Black man does not mean that, you know, he's gonna attack you or kill you. So I feel like that's like the first, you know, step in this whole thing, in this whole process. So that is something, because if you're gonna protect people and you're that scared, maybe that's the wrong profession for you, you know. So, and I've seen a lot of, you know, white people going out there protesting. That actually warmed my heart, and, you know, it just gives you hope that, you know, there are some good people out there and not everyone feels this way. So, you know, I have a feeling this is, you know, a long way to go, but hopefully this time we'll get somewhere where everyone can just, you know, I don't want to sound all, I don't know, overly optimistic, but, you know, at least everyone can live in peace, you know. So that's my hope.
What we need to do actually is we need to start asking ourselves those hard questions, those questions of bias within ourselves when it comes to gender, when it comes to race, when it comes to social inequalities in our society. We also need to go out and vote. We need to complete the census. We need to be involved in our school's education, the school board. So in order for change to happen, we need to change ourselves. We need to bring about the change within us. Yes, it's a profound time of pain, but also it's a time where we should harness the energy into policies that will effect change. Yes, right now, some of us may not even live to witness those changes that are upcoming, but at least we can bring about change so that way our children can live in a better world. Our next generation can live in a better world than the world that we currently live in today.
I believe that it's time for the people to take action. We have to stop reacting and start taking action. And that action is going to look different for everybody, for every single body. There's so many ways to get involved. I think the most important way to ignite change is to be aware of what needs to be changed. So if you're not aware of what the whole movement of Black Lives Matter means in itself, it's time to do your research. It's 2020. We have resources everywhere. You know, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google. It's easy to find these resources, but you just have to make sure that they're valid resources, and also to talk to people and to really get to know their perspective on what's going on so that we can take the necessary steps in order to change. Change is going to look different. Like I mentioned before, it's going to look different for everybody. But you have to get in where you fit in. Where do you fit in the most? Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? Is it protesting for you? Is it funding for you? Is it bringing that awareness on social media? Is it creating laws? Are you part of the legal system? Can you, propose laws? Is it talking to your community and getting to really understand the voices that are screaming, that have been screaming for years? It's a matter of being aware of the situation at hand, not using performative action just because everybody is upset, so you want to calm them down. You want to put a Band-Aid over it. No, that's not how it's going to work. Because at the end of the day, when that Band-Aid is lifted and it never fully healed, you're still going to be hurting. And that's exactly what U.S. is doing. They've been Band-Aiding a lot of issues, a lot of social injustices, and a lot of social oppression. For years, we've been Band-Aiding it. So it's now time to take that Band-Aid off and actually heal the wound. But first you have to get to the root of the issue. And first you have to be aware of that issue before any change can come about. So I think bringing about awareness will be the first step moving forward. And once we have that awareness, we can take the necessary steps for change, the change that we want to see. And we have to be that change that we want to see.
George Floyd, that 8 minutes, 46 seconds that everyone has seen, is what really prompted and started most of the struggle today. It elevated it for a lot of people. It highlighted it for a lot of people, but it didn't start it. It's been around, but it was just now hitting a lot of people that said enough is enough. And that's where we are. And then Rayshard happened in Atlanta. So then you're like, wait a minute, we made a lot of noise just 2 weeks ago. What happened? And then yesterday, I was like, okay, they started with the conversation with Rayshard, and then it led to violence. No one knew that they actually kicked him while he was on the ground and stepped on him. We just dealt with this. Were they not aware of it? I mean, there are videos around. You can't hide that stuff anymore. But is it blatant? Is it something that they thought they can just do? Why is it today that we're dealing with this? That's the question to ask. Is it police brutality, or just an elevated level of intolerance that they just can't hold in anymore? Some people blame it on COVID. It's not. It's just highlighted some more today. We're louder, and we'll be louder about it. Reform has to happen. That's the only way this can stop. You can take out the bad apples, but they're everywhere. There's a system problem. The people that are supposed to protect you are not protecting you. What do you do then? Now, I've heard people talk about defunding police or whatnot. I don't like that description because you do have to have law. You do have to have protection. Defunding is not the best way to describe it, but I think they want to reassign the budget and put money where it needs to be. Better training, let the officers know that they can't get away with what they need to get. I mean, there are good officers out there. So train more like them, put the money where it needs to be. That has to happen. Where do we go from here? We're tired of telling our sons to actually protect themselves from those that are supposed to protect them. That has to stop. Where we need to be is not to figure out ways to tell Siri, hey, I'm being pulled over, make sure you watch me. No, it's to fix the system. And that way we don't have to do that. I mentioned before, I have a 3-year-old son. This is the first time ever that I've thought of packing up and going back to Gambia. I've always wanted to go. I do go back. But I always kind of toyed with the idea of going for good. But now it's like, is it even worth it to be here? What am I here for? It built my career. I have a great living and my kids are happy. My family is great. But is it safe? I don't know. And that uncertainty is what needs to be erased. Where should the U.S. go after this? Is erase that uncertainty. I'm not part of the club of building a boy up to a man and telling him that just be prepared to save your own life because no one else cares about you. Not gonna happen. And where I wanna see the United States is to where I'm raising my son just like anybody else. And my daughter, just like anybody else. I happen to live in a predominantly white neighborhood. My daughter actually was the only black child in her kindergarten class. Not the school, but the class. It's a small class, but they loved her, she's fine. But there are certain things that she would come and ask questions, or I just want to explain to her how different she is, but not in a bad way. But I don't want to highlight things that will show her that she's not loved the same way as the other white children in her class. So, yes, I don't want to be the one. Why does our generation have to be the one to fix something that we thought was fixed 100 or so years ago? It's not right. The way forward is our leaders, the ones we actually voted for, because they said we have to vote to put our voices out there, let them step up. I'm not a politician, I'm not a senator, but my voice is that I'm voting for you to go do something. Step up and do what you're put there to do. The reform that all of you yelling about and talking about is in their hands for them to put that in place. So the leaders that we put there need to listen. And I don't think people are good at listening. That may be part of the problem. But we're loud enough that we've seen some of that change happening. You've seen a lot of companies shutting down early for Juneteenth. A lot of banks are doing it. Why does it have to take now for that to happen? Great, they're learning their lesson. But let more of that be highlighted. We don't have to be in the world today, it's 2020, for us to try to fight to get a day off to recognize where we were 100 years ago. It's not right. I don't think so. I thought we made progress, but it seems like we've taken a lot of steps back. Doesn't help that the country's leadership doesn't see that. It doesn't think that way. I think it's a game, I think. I mean, for a president to stand and think that they've made Juneteenth popular because of their mistakes that they made and backtracked, that's a shame. It's an embarrassment. So the reform we need is put the right leaders in office, and when we put those leaders in office, they have to listen to the people that they lead. And the black vote is not just a token. It's an equal vote, and it's an important vote. And we're done sitting in the back. We're done not being recognized. I think to take the step forward, as a group of people, we don't just say buy black and just support black business. We have to be economically rich. We have to be able to move forward, build our own, build our children, build wealth, comfort, have the hard conversations with our neighbors. Because I know people that didn't know anything about Juneteenth. I myself didn't know a lot about it. Educate yourselves. That's the way forward. Without it, we're poor. So let's do better.